Sports.
All right, it is the Pete Souza Show. We are back. We're in the studio today. Got to sleep in my own bed last night. Woke up this morning and got some work done, and then came on over here to the Rogue Media Network on the 21st floor of the Alico building. And let me give a quick plug. First of all, yesterday we did I'm kind of like never sure about wearing a hat. That's been my whole life since T-ball. Yesterday we went to Slovacek's and did a live show there, and it was awesome. And we thank everybody at Slovacek's. I'm telling you, if you're in Central Texas or North Texas and you're driving on 35, stop by Slovacek's. If you're going from Waco to Dallas or from Dallas to Austin, it's the best. I mean, first of all, it's like Christmas on steroids. And they got the best barbecue and the best kolaches you could ever want. I bumped into, I'll bring her name up again. By the way, the show is presented by Slovacek's, but we're not being partial here. We're just being real. I bumped into our friend, point guard, who's now injured, Jana Van Geitenbeek from the Baylor women's basketball team. I bumped into her and her dad yesterday at Slovacek's. And her dad's from Colorado. Jana's from Colorado. But they were in there. Like, her dad was like, yeah, I had to get to Slovacek's. And I was like, I understand. So Slovacek's is where it's at. And if you can get to Slovacek's, I would recommend it, especially this time of year. We're also presented by Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Crawford Austin Properties. I mean, does it get any better commercial real estate wise than them? And Socorro Family Ford. We got a live show out there tomorrow. And we can't forget First National Bank of Central Texas. Dan Ingham will not be joining us today. But we'll have him back next week, or I guess the week after. I guess a week from today. It's December 26th, less than a week from Christmas. Craziness. Well, I started the day. I did a little cross promotion. The Payoff with Pete is a podcast I do about sobriety, and I got to start like giving that some juice and some love, because I'm still doing it every week. And honestly, the numbers it does is very good. But I want to continue to get it out there, just to kind of let people know if you have trouble or you're struggling with addiction or you got a family member that's struggling with addiction, just drop in and listen to it. The Payoff with Pete, Stories of Sobriety. It's hot on my mind today because I recorded one with a guy who I looked up with so much as a young man. John DeLong covered the Charlotte Hornets for the Winston-Salem Journal when I was working PR for the organization. And I had no idea at that point in time when I first met John. I guess he was 17 years sober. This is 2004. He got sober in 87. But it makes perfect sense that he will be sober because he was so chill. And in a world where beat writers are anxious and trying to get a scoop, he wasn't like that. And he was still incredibly successful. He just wrote a book. It's called My Name is John. And My Name is John, The Blessings of Sobriety. It's an awesome book, and I talked to him about it. That podcast will be up later today or tomorrow morning, so look for that on the Payoff with Pete Stories of Sobriety feed. I want to begin today talking about the ineptitude of the New York Jets organization, and I want to bring some clarity to a story that's gaining a lot of traction right now. So the New York Post reported, actually The Athletic reported, so they had a talk with Joe Douglas, who I keep in touch with over text, but even still, Joe was a Richmond Spider and a teammate of mine, and was just relieved of his duties not too long ago by the New York Jets, where he was the general manager. Joe, I just want to say this, and again, this isn't like two things can be true at once. Slovacek's is a sponsor of this show, and it kicks ass. Joe Douglas is a friend of mine, and there's nobody you'll ever meet with more integrity. So Joe, the story has been, it's been reported that Woody Johnson actually shut down a trade for Jerry Jeudy, who is still a member of the Broncos, because Jerry Jeudy's Madden NFL rating was low. This was something that Joe, whether he even wants this in The Athletic, Joe had relayed it to a writer to The Athletic. And Brick apparently is Woody Johnson's son, who had conveyed to his dad, like, you don't want Jerry Jeudy. His Madden rating sucks. So Woody stepped in front and squashed the trade. Now, a representative of the Jets is like on the record now, going on the attack, kind of going after Joe. Like the fact that you would share this, this innocuous thing that never happened is really like, let's all clutch our pearls. Like Joe Douglas is going after the young 18-year-old, Woody Johnson's son, which is Brick is a freshman at Harvard. And I don't want to go after Brick. I don't know Brick. But I'm getting Roman, what was his name? Logan. I'm getting Romulus, right? Yeah. Romulus. That was Roman. I'm getting Roman Roy. I'm getting Roman Roy vibes from this cat Brick. So Brick, who now in my mind is Roman Roy, told his dad, Woody Johnson, who now in my mind is Logan Roy, hey, we don't want to make a trade for Jerry Jeudy, Dad, because his rating is too low on Madden. And you know what? I'm gonna throw that comparison out the window because that's not how Logan Roy runs a business, right? He would tell Roman to go kick rocks, and he would consult his general manager and either make the trade or not make the trade based on data that was gathered and factual evidence on the football field. Once in a while, Logan would get a little crazy and make some wild decisions, but at the same time, they were at least his own decisions. As the owner, what was the name of the network, Zach? Do you remember? God, I'm getting old. What a show, man. Logan Roy, thank you for crashing into our lives. And Succession, obviously, we're talking about. Yeah, like I guess it'd almost be like Roman saying something to Logan about a network decision. But so Joe, I want to go back to, okay? Joe he's not looking to like, first of all, I talked to a buddy of mine. What was it called? Waystar. There it is, a Waystar. Yeah. But so Joe he's a great dude. I was talking to a buddy of mine who we've had on the show, Matt Davis. Matt spent some time with Joe recently. And just like Joe does not, like even among our friends, Joe is so above board. He doesn't talk negatively about guys he probably didn't like when he played at Richmond with them, So he's just not going to go on the record to attack Woody Johnson so he can, really try to stick it to him. That's just not who this guy is. But let me tell you something. If you're a general manager who was just let go by an organization, and this was an experience you had while you were on the job, it certainly is worth sharing when you consider your future and the way that you're looked at by other organizations, which, by the way, Joe Douglas ain't going to have any problems finding a job. I can tell you that. I can just tell you that, okay? It's a matter of where he wants to work, where he'll work next. But Woody Johnson taking counsel from his son, Brick, who is 18 years old, little guy at Harvard, again, Roman Roy vibes, telling Daddy, hey, Jerry Jeudy, his ranking isn't high enough on Madden. We can't trade for him. So tell Joe Douglas that. And then Joe, could you imagine being Joe Douglas and like, yeah, we're not going to trade it. Brick even said that his Madden rating wasn't high enough. I don't care if that factors in like maybe a thread or 5% into the decision-making by Woody Johnson to squash the trade. That is way too much. And now we have yet again another illustration of just why the Jets suck as bad as they do. And it's interesting watching the Aaron Rodgers documentary. So far, I watched episode 1 intently. I always say this. If you're going to watch something, a great place to watch it is on a plane because like I had nothing else going and I was super like committed and watching it. Last night, I had it on in the background while I was doing work, episode 2. And I didn't like episode 2 as much because it just didn't go as much into football. Episode 1 was a lot into football. Episode 2 was a lot about Aaron Rodgers and his journey and the ayahuasca stuff. And it's super interesting. Outside of it felt like a very forced conversation with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're on a hike together and there's a camera there. And it just felt like this seems kind of awkward. And the two clearly respect each other a great deal. But yeah, that piece of footage, I was like, I felt awkward. So it was awkward. How about that? But overall, it's certainly an interesting piece of content. I texted my brother Mike. I was like, "You got to watch the Aaron Rodgers doc." Episode 1 was definitely better than episode 2. I will say I'm still frustrated. Like I do kind of pull for Aaron Rodgers. He seems like a normal guy. Well, he's not normal. He seems like a guy that I could be friends with. But I do get frustrated with like again, we get invested in these stories. I don't know why I care as much as I do, but like it's like, dude, talk to your family. Like something bad could happen. He still hasn't talked to them, and it's ridiculous what his family did. I mean, basically, Jordan Rodgers was on The Bachelorette, and I guess towards the end they had like a family dinner, when it was like a meet the family type deal because he was a contestant, if you remember, and he won. And so towards the family deal, it was Jordan's parents, uh, the woman who Jordan ends up with, who was the Bachelorette, and Jordan. So there's 4 of them, and they left 2 empty chairs. And I think that was for the empty chairs represented Aaron Rodgers and Olivia Munn, his girlfriend at the time. And it was like, why would you do that? Aaron was like, I have no clue why they would do that. And so that extended to like this family feud where Aaron's like, look, I don't begrudge them. I wish them well, whatever, but we're not talking. It's like, come on, man, that was a while ago. So it'd be nice if he picked up the phone and buried the hatchet, but that's just some of my AA and 12-step stuff coming out. A lot of people, whatever. So, but Aaron Rodgers has not yet gotten into Woody Johnson, and maybe he won't at all. But yeah, interesting documentary. One thing I want to talk about today is we're getting into the college football playoff. Saturday night, Tennessee and Ohio State will be playing at the Horseshoe. Ohio State is coached by Ryan Day, who has had an amazing run as the head coach at Ohio State. The guy doesn't lose very often, but when he does lose, sometimes it's to Michigan. Which brings me to this thought I've been having and something that is annoying me. There's a lot to be frustrated with college sports. Some of the things, and I'm talking about the portal and all this. I don't even want to talk about that today because it's really frustrating me and making me. I'm getting bothered by it. The fact that a player for Penn State that would be featured in their offense, maybe 10 to 15 plays in a playoff game, that player is departing the program to look out for his best interests so he can enter the transfer portal. I'm not sure that there's really anything wrong with that decision being made by a player in today's climate. I don't know enough about the situation and how he has to look after his own interests and you know his ability to make money and have success and play because Drew Aller announced that he's coming back for Penn State. But I can't quite get my mind around the fact that the championship is on the line. This is why we do this. And you're going to bow out because you have to logistically, because that's when the portal window opens up during the playoffs. It's like you couldn't make it up. And so now here I am talking about it. I'm getting more and more frustrated. But Ryan Day, people say, this morning I was watching ESPN. It was Dan Orlovsky and Harry Edwards, who Harry Edwards is great. Not Harry Edwards, the old therapist for the 49ers that used to always turn up in documentaries and NFL films guy, who's amazing himself. Oh, no, Harry Douglas. See, I am getting old. Harry Douglas is the young guy who's on ESPN with Dan Orlovsky. But Harry Douglas said flat out, he's like, if he doesn't win the national championship, talking about Ryan Day, he's going to get fired. And Orlovsky agreed. And then now it's because they don't beat Michigan. It's one game a year. It's ridiculous. Like, you got a good thing, Ohio State, with Ryan Day. Like, the fact that they lost, they're in the playoff. They're there. They're at the table with a chance to win. Forget Michigan. Like, I know it affected your seed and the bye and everything, but like at the end of the day, Ryan Day has been extremely successful as a head coach at Ohio State. And because he has lost to Michigan, you're going to fire him now. And look, if you fire him, I believe you're going to get what you get. You are Ohio State. You are one of the elite college programs in the history of the sport. There is no question about that. It's not Boston College going 7-6 or 7-5. And I'm just using that as a, for instance, an example of a college program that just doesn't know its own identity, right, doesn't know that 7-5 is good for them. But it's not like Boston College being like, we're better than 7-5 and firing their coach looking for somebody else who can never take them above 7-5 or 8-5 consistently, because that's just not what the program has the resources for it now. Ohio State, I understand, is different, right? You can get a whole lot of mustard and mojo and money and excitement behind your football program and your football coach. We've seen it over and over again with Jim Tressel, with Urban Meyer, but at the same, with John Cooper before that. But like, to fire Ryan Day because he's lost to Michigan like 3 years in a row, or forgive me, maybe 4, is ridiculous when you're winning every other game. And whether he wins a championship this year or he wins one playoff game, this is going to be tough too. Tennessee's good. The climate is certainly going to favor Ohio State because it's a home game on a Saturday night where it's going to be freezing. But if Ryan Day loses that game and gets fired, it's just like all these alumni and donors. I'm just coming back from it. You know, Villanova basketball sucks right now. And their coach, Kyle Neptune, is really on the hot seat, to say the very least. But I love Villanova. I almost wore a Villanova pullover today. You guys know, if you watch the show, my relationship, it's very familial with the school. I grew up at the foot of the university. But like, that's another program where they don't quite know who they are. Everybody wants to file Kyle Neptune, and that's the head coach now. You probably don't even know. And major donors are pulling $10 million off the table, and we're going to hire Brad Stevens. Like, no, you're not going to hire Brad Stevens, because he's not going to come work for you, because he has a job and he might be executive of the year with the Celtics. Like, so cross that off the list. There is a lot of just universities, donors, alumni. You have no clue what your school really is and what they're really capable of. And what is what? Like, and this is the end of it for me. And this is college football since the beginning of time, but it's still something I've never liked about college football. Because you're an Ohio State alum and your drinking buddy who is a Michigan alum, and let's say you both have millions upon millions of dollars, your Michigan alum drinking buddy is giving you shit because Ryan Day can't beat Ohio State. Now you're going to fire Ryan Day, who's done a tremendous job for Ohio State and is knocking on the door of a national title just about every year. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. But here we are. We're talking about, and I've started the show with this. I don't know why I have such a bug up my ass, but we're talking about Woody Johnson being a completely ignorant owner. And we're talking about alumni and donors around college athletics, and even some of the schools, right? Whether it's a chancellor, a president, athletic director, these guys just don't really know who they are. And I love seeing, and we talk about it this year here in Central Texas with Baylor and Dave Aranda. Like, I love seeing these guys get theirs. I love seeing a coach come back from the dead, who everybody pronounced dead, and everybody was like, this guy needs to get fired today. What are we doing? And you win 8 straight or whatever it is to finish the season. And so I was never a fan of Ryan Day, and I feel like the dyed beard is probably a little much, and he really manicures the facial hair, which to me is something I can't relate to. There's a lot wrong with me, maybe just a little physically, but yeah, I don't like groom like that. And so to me, he's always got a little bit of a weird look. I've never been a huge fan. Obviously, we're talking just surface vibe stuff here because I can be weird, but now he's got a fan, because I hope Ryan Day can stick it up everybody's ass in Columbus, Ohio, and go on a little run here, because I don't think I just have issues with that. Who I don't have issues with is Cam Stewart. Cam is coming up next. I can't wait to talk with Cam about Baylor basketball, Baylor football. He is the host of Locked On. I went on Locked On Buffs last night, which is probably, we'll talk to Cam about this. Which is better, Locked On Buffs or Locked On Baylor? They both get a lot of views. That duel continues coming up on the other side of this break. The Pete Souza Show, brought to you by Slovacics and powered by the Rogue Media Network, rolls on after this.